Hi, my name is Leon Jones Jr., and I'm a estate planning and business attorney focusing on helping individuals, families, and businesses protect the assets that they've built. Today, I want to talk to you about divorced parents and asset protection and estate planning. There are three things that I think a divorced parent should look out for as they're moving on with their life after divorce. Number one, life insurance. When you were married, did you take out a life insurance policy? If so, who's the beneficiary? Think about that. Because if you haven't looked at that since you got a divorce and you prematurely pass away, whomever is listed as that beneficiary will get the assets in their life insurance. And so if you don't want your former spouse to continue to be the beneficiary, then you need to update your life insurance. If you want your children to be the beneficiary, or let's say you got a divorce and you have siblings and they have children, but you don't have any children, you can change your beneficiary designation to one of them so that they can get the benefit of your life insurance. So number one, make sure that you go back, look at your life insurance policy and understand who the beneficiaries are. If you need to change them, get those beneficiaries changed. Number two, legacy planning for your children, for your grandchildren. You could have been married for 2 years or 42 years. At some point along the way, you could have had children. 1 children, 2 children, doesn't matter. And then along the way, even further down the road within that marriage, you had a grandchild or 2. And maybe have 2 or 3 grandchildren. What are you gonna do for them? How are you gonna protect them? Yeah, it may seem pretty rudimentary that, hey, I got a divorce, but I'm gonna take care of my children. Well, are there gonna be complements or conflicts with the ex-spouse as it relates to taking care of the children? I don't know what some of those things could be, but an example could be that the ex-spouse doesn't want to take care of or help fund college. But when you were married, you started a college fund. What do you do with those assets now? Think about that. And so there are different things that happen as a divorced parent that you need to consider as you're doing your estate plan. Making sure that you are updating your bank account. I'm sure you did that through the course of the divorce, but let's say you had 2 or 3 bank accounts and there was one of them that you barely used, but still has your and your ex-spouse's name on it. You need to take care of that. You need to make sure that's taken care of. Making sure that if you did put a will and a trust in place during the marriage, that you update both of those documents, that you make sure that you update your trustee, your executor, your beneficiaries within those documents. You make sure that you update the assets. When you put that will or that trust together during your marriage and now you have separated, there are assets that you had mentioned in the will, there are assets that you placed in the trust that now need to be taken out and put into other documents, other instruments, titled a different way. And so if you forget to do that, then whatever was there prior to the divorce will still be there after the divorce. And so make sure you take care of those things. Make sure that those things are top of mind. And then healthcare directives. When you're talking to your spouse, and it could be late at night and you guys are sitting there and you're talking about the future. And at this point, you're married, you've been married for several years, you have a few children, and you're talking about healthcare. What does that mean? What does that look like? Hey, if I go to the hospital, I want you to do this, that, and that. I don't want you to do the other. And so you're talking to your spouse, and that spouse has an understanding of that. And so you may put a healthcare directive in place, or at that point, you're not thinking about it because you got your spouse there. Well, you've gotten a divorce. And so now that spouse, if you don't put anything in place, maybe that spouse can come back and say, well, hey, so-and-so said this, but you could have changed your mind because you're not divorced. You're divorced. You're now divorced. And so if you put a healthcare directive in place, you need to make sure that it's up to date. Because if you have any changes that you wanted to make, if you have any things that you want to do differently, but you still have it in place from when you were married, then that could have a negative effect. Same thing with powers of attorney that goes inside of that. If you put a power of attorney in place while you were married and you're a little bit older and then you ended up getting a divorce, make sure that you update your power of attorney because it's hugely important to look at those documents and make sure that they're up to date, make sure that those documents are done in a proper way and put together in a proper manner. So go back over them again. looking at your life insurance designations, and along with life insurance, bank accounts, other assets, how are cars titled, how are houses titled, and the whole 9 yards. So making sure you're looking at that. Number two, legacy planning, making sure that your children, your grandchildren that may have been produced during the marriage are taken care of the way you want them to be taken care of and not necessarily the way your former spouse wants to be taken care of. And then number three, do you have your healthcare directive updated? In the event you become incapacitated and the ex-spouse still has access to that, do you want them calling the shots? Maybe they're still your best friend. Maybe for whatever reason, the relationship broke down. They're still your best friend. You still want them to call the shots. But if you don't, make sure your healthcare directive is up to date. My name is Leon Jones Jr. I am an estate planning and business lawyer helping individuals, families, and businesses protect the assets that they've built. If you like what you've heard, click the like button. If you want to understand more about what I do and how I help families and individuals and businesses, click the subscribe button and come back and watch more of my videos. And I would love for you to click on the button, book a call with us so that one of myself or my team members can talk to you about what's going on in your individual life so we can get to know you and your family and your business so that we can try to help you put a plan in place to protect what you've built. Take care.